want to welcome you to the May 11th regular meeting of the Governing Board. Thank you for coming this evening. We will start with our roll call. Mrs. Nye. Here.
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 Thank you, Mrs. Nye. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I do apologize for the meeting getting started a little bit late. We had a celebration for those who are retiring from the district this year, and for those who have taught and worked in our support services in all different departments across the district, who have dedicated many years of service to the district, and we so appreciate the impact that they have had on all of our students. So if you happen to see them in the lobby on your way out, please thank them. We do appreciate everything that they have done. We do have some routine business. The first is to approve the minutes of the April 27th, 2022 regular board meeting. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 27th, 2022 regular board meeting as presented.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of the April 27th, 2022 regular board meeting, please say aye.
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 Next, we have to approve and ratify our payroll and accounts payable vouchers. Could I get a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve and ratify payroll and accounts payable vouchers.
Second.
All those in favor of approving and ratifying payroll and accounts payable vouchers, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Mr. Narducci, is there any correspondence
Madam President, members of the board, there is no correspondence today.
to share? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to our student body president reports. Tonight, we have Havana Baez from Castile High School to present about what's going on at Castile. Havana?
Hello, everybody, and good evening. I would like to just start off by introducing myself. I'm Havana Baez, and I'm the student body president at Castile High School. I'm just here to share with you some of the more fun things going on at Castile. I would also like to thank the governing board so much for allowing me to be here, and I'm sad to say that this will be my last time ever presenting at one of these meetings, as graduation is just in 2 weeks. But that being said, let's jump right into the presentation. Okay, so first off, I wanted to start talking about prom. This year, I'm very happy to say that we were able to have a prom, and it was held at Ashley Castle in Chandler. As a tradition, the juniors and student council were the ones who planned and coordinated all of the details surrounding prom, and they did so all whilst keeping it completely secret from the seniors as well as the rest of the school. The theme for our prom this year was an enchanted night, and this venue fit this theme seamlessly. So that picture on the top is the venue, and then that picture on the bottom is our junior and senior class at prom. Next up, these pictures you see here on the screen were from the first ever Easter egg hunt that was put together by our very own cult crew, and this was for students with special needs. We had many schools there, including Perry, Basha, and Chandler. The day consisted of decorating bags, doing some crafts, and an Easter egg hunt, of course, and the day was topped off with a huge dance party with all the kids. This event was so much fun, and we're hoping to make it an annual thing. Up next is our senior sunset. This event is something that is held every year to commemorate the end of the seniors last year in high school. So we started off our year with a senior sunrise where all the seniors got together before school on the bleachers, and now we held our senior sunset representing the end of this part of our lives. We had a really great turnout, and the students got to enjoy a gourmet soda bar, which was put together by our Safe School Ambassador Club at Castile. And we also had games such as flag football, cornhole, and spike ball for students to play. So that's just a picture of all the seniors there where we did like a candle lighting ceremony. Next up is our 8th grade formal. For those of you that know, Castile is also a junior high. So this is a dance that we put on every year that's only for 8th graders. This year's theme for the dance was A Night in Emerald City, which is paying tribute to the Wizard of Oz. We sold lots of tickets, and the middle schoolers had a lot of fun. And we held this in our cafeteria. So now another tradition at Castile, as well as a lot of other high schools, is the Powerpuff game. So essentially what this is 2 teams, one made up of junior class girls and one made up of senior class girls, compete in a game of flag football. So they have multiple practices throughout the weeks leading up to the game, and then both teams are coached by some of the football players from our team. Next, I would like to highlight the unified basketball game that we hosted at Castile last week. This was the Castile Colts versus the Basha Bears. Since the timing of the game interfered with our conference period, we were able to fill the stands, both sides of the stands, with cheering students and staff. Student council made signs to cheer both teams on. We had our dance team, Project 15, there to cheer them on, and even some of the unified cheer team there as well. This game was so much fun for everyone, and this was probably the loudest I've ever heard any of our student sections cheer, so it was just a lot of fun. Now for the most important part, teacher appreciation. So for those of you who don't know, teacher appreciation was this past week, and I would just like to quickly say thank you one more time to all of our CUSD teachers, staff, and the governing board for all of your hard work and for being the ones who make all the fun things in this presentation possible. But this year, between Student Council, National Honor Society, and the parents of Castile students, the teachers were treated with snacks, drinks, and sundaes in the office. And that is all I have for you guys. Now that my presentation has come to an end, I would just like to sincerely thank you all for listening, and thank you once again to the governing board for having me when I miss doing these presentations.
Thank you. Stay up there for a moment. Hannah, what are you planning on doing after graduation?
I'm headed across seas, and I'm going to University of Hawaii.
Wow. And do you have a course of study that you're going to pursue?
Yes, I'm going to be doing mechanical engineering there.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we want to thank you for coming and spending time with us and letting us know what's going on at Castile High School. And we have a little name plaque for you to put on your desk and to remember your leadership and your times at our school board meetings. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to be taking this to my dorm with me. So.
Next, we have Nathan Lamb from Perry High School.
All right. Is this okay? Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Narducci, and the governing board. My name is Nathan Lamb, and I'm the student body president at Perry High School. I'm excited to be here once more to share the amazing events and happenings at our school with you all. Although our school year is coming to a close and events are winding down, our athletics team has continued to stay strong, competing in our state playoffs. Boys volleyball is ranked 3rd in the state and is still in the state playoffs. Baseball is ranked 10th in the state and is also still in the state playoffs. Beach volleyball is ranked 8th in the state and made it to the state quarterfinals. Avery Burks and Jordan Swan made it to the state pairs quarterfinals. Softball was ranked 6th in the state. Boys tennis was ranked 11th in the state, and girls tennis was ranked 7th in the state. Avery Jones and Sydney Park made it to the state doubles quarterfinals, and this is the first time in school history that a Perry tennis doubles team has made it to the state quarterfinals. Girls track is currently in the state meet, which is still going on. The 4x800 relay team of Alexis Pagel, Christina Lenkova, Sydney Stevens, and Taylor Lovell are the state champions. Avery Clark was a state runner-up in the high jump, and the team is currently in first place after the first day of competition. Both the girls and boys track team have quite a few athletes still competing Wednesday and Saturday. Unified basketball finished their season undefeated, and we are hosting the Unified Basketball Tournament on Monday starting at 9 a.m. The athletic department won the AIA School Spirit Video Award. and we will receive a banner and $1,000 for our programs. Perry senior Grant Woodford created the video with the help of the students showcased. And lastly, a huge congratulations to Nathan Harder, who was named as our new head girls golf coach, and our new head girls soccer coach will be named soon. Just as our athletics department is finishing strong, our student government is continuing to work hard in order to plan events for the student body. So after breaking records and selling over 900 tickets to our Morp Dance, we kicked committees into high gear in order to plan our prom week of events. So first of all, we had our Prom Spirit Week, where our student body dressed up to themes like Dress Like Your Type Day and Soccer Moms versus Barbecue Dads Day. That Friday, as Perry was decked out in construction gear for Construction Day, where we held our final assembly of the year for prom, where students competed games like Family Feud, and we had our dance teams perform one last time before our senior slideshow was played for the class of 22. For teacher appreciation, we gave gifts throughout the entire week to show our gratitude for the hard work and compassion that our Perry teachers and staff put into their students and work. And that Wednesday, we had a teacher appreciation grill out where Mr. Ames and Mr. Bauer were cooking up some burgers for the teachers. We also held raffles for teachers in order to win gift cards, memberships, massages, and more. And last Saturday, we had our prom dance, a Perry Tale ending, where over 1,500 students packed up the dance floor and danced to our favorite songs. Seniors Brooks Peterson and Brooke Lasson were named prom royalty. And a huge shout out to our prom committee for making my night, and I'm sure many other students' nights, unforgettable, as they worked tirelessly this whole year, again, just like Havana said, just behind the seniors' backs, in order to make sure that this event became a reality. So although I'm sad that the school year has come to a close so quickly, I look at the individuals in Stugo and have been honored to work alongside such dedicated, selfless members of Perry. They're truly dedicated to making their campus a better place. And I'm excited to visit in the future and see their upcoming traditions, spirit, success, and much more. So once again, a huge thank you to Madam President, Superintendent Narducci, and the governing board for having me represent Perry High for this past year and giving me the opportunity to present all of the great things that are happening on our campus. As always, I brought some Perry merch that, in the interest of time, will be distributed later, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. So Nathan, can you let us know what you're planning to do after you graduate?
Yeah, so I'm heading to Stanford, and I'm majoring in pre-med, so.
Wonderful. Great. Well, we also have a nameplate for you to thank you for all of your leadership at Perry High and for coming out and letting us know what's going on at Perry at our board meetings and such. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much.
Good luck to you. Next, we have some student recognition, and Mr. Terry Locke will be presenting.
I would love to. Would you mind joining us down below for the brief recognition? Favorite part of our meeting every week, every 2 weeks. So we have two special recognition presentations tonight. Let's start by bringing in William Lucas of Perry High School. At the state FCCLA State Arizona Leadership Conference recently, Perry High School sophomore Will Lucas competed in the public advocacy event, and his topic was play-based education in kindergarten. As part of the project, he interviewed Superintendent Frank Narducci and Director of Elementary Education Leo Schleter. For his efforts, Will received a gold medal, which he's wearing around his neck today. He will go on to represent the state and Perry High School at the National FCCLA Leadership Conference in San Diego this summer. His teacher, Victoria Fisher, are you here tonight? Mrs. Fisher? Here she is, yes. Proud teacher is here. And congratulations, Will, on a great accomplishment. We're very proud of you. Next is Arizona College Prep High School sophomore Andrew Yang. So Arizona College Prep High School sophomore Andrew Lang Yang won the AIA Division III State Singles Championship at Paseo Racket Center. Andrew, seeded number 2 in the state, wasted no time beating his first opponent from Scottsdale Prep 6-0 and 6-0 to advance to championship round. Andrew then went on to beat number 4, Jacob Kaufman, in the championship match 6-2 and a close one 7-6. The ACP high school tennis program is coached by John DioGracias. And Andrew, great job. You got 2 more years to try again. Fantastic. In attendance for Andrew tonight, of course, is Gene McClure, the athletic director of You'd Wave from ACP. That concludes our recognition tonight.
And next we have a presentation celebrating Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Good evening, Madam President, Vice President Olive, members of the board, and Superintendent Narducci, and esteemed cabinet members. My name is Sharina DiCaro, and I'm the Dean of Students at Basha High School. It is with great pleasure to celebrate the first ever Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And presenting our proclamation is Ms. Jessica Lee. She is the president of Asian Cultural Ethics Club at Basha High School.
During Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, our nation recognizes the innumerable contributions, vibrant cultures, and rich heritage of Asian Americans Pacific Islanders, AAPI. As some of the fastest growing racial and ethnic groups in the nation, AAPI communities represent a multitude of ethnicities, languages, and experiences that enrich America and strengthen our union. AAPIs have long played an essential role in writing the American story. From serving our country in uniform, advocating for civil rights, starting new businesses, and winning Olympic medals, the contributions of the AAPI community touch the lives of Americans every day. AAPIs serve the distinction at the highest levels of federal, state, and local government. Whereas the Chandler Unified School District can count among its past and present members many AAPI leaders, administrators, educators, and student pioneers with city, state, and national historical prominence. Whereas the vision of the Chandler Unified School District is an environment where a diverse population is a strength and a spirit of equity, collaboration, and response permeates our community. Now, therefore, I, Jessica Lee, student in the Chandler Unified School District, do hereby proclaim the month of May 1st through May 31st, 2022, as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and urge all Chandler and Arizona residents to celebrate the rich history, culture, and contributions of those of AAPI descent. I also have a presentation. I don't have a slideshow with me, but so as of 2020, over 24 million people identify as Asian and nearly 1.6 identify as Pacific Islander in the U.S. And this is why we celebrate Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the month of May. The reason why AAPI month is in the month of May is to, one, remember the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad on May 10th, 1869, whose construction would not have been possible without the sacrifice of thousands of Chinese immigrants. Chinese immigrants came over to America during the gold rush, mainly for new opportunities and new jobs. However, they were faced with a lot of anti-Asian hate, anti-Chinese hatred, and legislations that later restricted immigration from China for years until those immigration laws were removed in the late 1960s and 70s. AAPI month is also recognized in the month of May to recognize the arrival of the first Japanese immigrants on May 7th, 1843. And ultimately, it's very important to recognize what really started AAPI civic engagement and social activism. So in 1973, Vincent Chin was a Chinese American in Detroit who was killed by 2 white men who worked in U.S. manufacturing centers who thought he looked Japanese and were blaming the Japanese for taking away their jobs. And we saw that this event truly united Americans of East Asian, South Asian, and Southeast Asian descent under a common cause. And we are seeing that same parallel in today with the Stop AAPI Hate movement due to the COVID pandemic in 2020 to 2021. Last year, we saw a 339% increase in anti-Asian hate crimes nationwide, particularly towards elderly and Asian women. And then we also saw a rise of action by the entire community uniting, just like it once did in 1973. And obviously, beyond this, there are so many more key points in our history that were pivotal to AAPI history and culture, and it just shows how much there can be to learn about our community. As the fastest growing minority population in the Chandler city, the API community needs to be recognized and acknowledged for the commitment and value they hold in our cities and in our schools. The history that I was mentioning today was history that I either learned about in my own time or only briefly learned about in our schools. So when growing up in this district, I only briefly saw myself in the curriculum, and I personally believe that it is essential to include multicultural education to our curriculums to better represent the student population, to not only benefit minority students, but also all students overall. An example of this is something that ACE Club does, which is the club I represent and the president of, is where we hold an annual showcase where we present multiple dances from different Asian countries, as well as different foods, as a part of our banquet to represent the various cultures to the local community and are a part of our lives in a fun and inclusive way. And to continue to advocate for the AAPI community in our schools and to better support our minority students, I urge you to find ways to educate our students and schools on our culture and community. We do not need to completely rewrite curriculums or take time away from schools, but we can always promote more cultural festivals and possibly, as teachers, to include more minority representation in our curriculums with books from POC authors or mentioning important POC that are relevant to their subject. Overall, I believe it is important to acknowledge the voices and opinions of our AAPI students to make them feel comfortable and secure in their classrooms, as we are also part of this community and a part of CUSD, and we must be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. We appreciate your thoughts and your presentation.
Of course, thank you.
Next, Mrs. Lanaberry is going to lead a public hearing on the revised 2021-2022 budget.
All right, well, Madam President, members of the governing board, good evening. Tonight, you're going to be approving or accepting the revision number 2 of our annual expenditure budget. And so I want to go over the changes briefly with you before the end of this fiscal year. And then the next time that you'll see any information about this budget is related to the annual financial report in October of 2022. So a few things that I want to cover. On the overview, we're going to talk about the decreases in the revenue control limit related to our ADM, because we're on current year funding, so it's based on the number of students based on calculation. And that impacts also the base level support. There's a few adjustments to that. We're going to talk about the impact to M&O and capital. Then we're going to review the overall amounts in our federal stimulus money, because there are some new updates related to grants. We're going to talk about a couple that we've added since you saw this revision in September. And then I'm going to go over the actual differences between revision number 1 and revision number 2 in both M&O, our federal funds and state funds and grants, and then our other funds, our cash funds that we have. So right off the bat, the very probably most important fund that we have is our maintenance and operations fund. And our revenue control limit is important because obviously that's what impacts our overall amount if we're going to increase or decrease our budget. And we have an overall reduction compared to what we brought to you in September when we did the first revision. And originally when we proposed the budget in the summer, and we didn't make a change to the ADM when you saw the revision in the first revision, we had 42,506 ADM. Our revision currently is at 42,354 ADM. Most of that has to do with our online students. As you know, last year, our online students, we were able to count them as if they were in person. We only had a 5% reduction. But now we're back to how we calculate students. So if they don't turn in their minutes and their times, especially in our junior highs and high schools, and they don't meet the criteria for the time needed for them, for our online students, and there's a reduction in that. And we're definitely, even though we're up in student population and actual kids that attend our schools, that impact has definitely impacted our overall ADM. So we're down overall. As you can see, we approved the budget at 42,506. We have 42,354 ADM. So that's an impact to us of our revenue control limit because it's based on the number of students we have times the base support level. That's approximately a $1.2 million reduction. So a loss of 152 ADM. Now, we actually, like I said, compared to the last day of school last year to this year, we've increased students, but that's related to the calculation based on we have approximately 800 ADM in our online schools. There was a couple other changes to the base support level and adjustments. We had a reduction in our audit service expenditures by 15,000. So we budgeted an amount, and we're actually based on the expenditures that we have. That was 51,000. So she just made sure she had the accurate number in there. We also had an increase in the new gifted funding, which equated to $21,000 for Chandler Unified School District. So when you add those two, a negative plus the positive on those two adjustments, that's an additional $6,657. So when you add those up together, plus a carryover that we had from our annual financial report and the increase in Prop 301, it's an increase of approximately $4.1 million. Yes.
Could you back up a slide? I'm slow today.
That's okay.
So if we thought it was going to cost $66,000 to have the audit, and it only cost $51,000, we got $15,000 we didn't think we were going to have, right?
Right, that's correct.
And then we have another $21,000 that somebody gave us.
Yes.
That sounds
an
like
increase.
$36,000.
So it's a reduction of 15 in the sense of budget capacity. So the audit, you put in an amount in your budget. There's a line item that says how much did you spend for your audit. She put in the prior years because it's based on prior years. She put in, she thought the amount that we would spend because you get to increase that to your budget of $66,000. It was only $51,000. So it's actually a reduction to your budget because in the line item on page 7 you can see that ultimately the cost of the audit was not 66, it was only 51. So it's a budget increase. So the revenue control limit takes the number of kids. It also takes what your audit expenditures were from prior year. It takes the override amount, takes Prop 123, and that adds up to your revenue control limit. So it's a budget. This slide is about budget and the budget limit.
It's one of those credit account, debit account things?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
So yes, you're welcome. Good question. So overall, the M&O budget limit increased by $4 million. So we just went over the reason the revenue control limit went down based on ADM, then the audit piece, and then also the gifted funding. We had an increase in our carryover from our annual financial report. The last time you saw the revision was in September, and it was based on the adopted budget that we adopted in July. We finished the annual financial report for fiscal year 21. And our overall carryover, especially due to federal dollars, when we did journal entries related to our federal expenditures from all the ESSER funds, that carryover was $5.2 million more than what we originally estimated when we put it together in the proposed budget in June and adopted that in July. We didn't make changes in September, and then we brought to you, the board, the annual financial report in October. So now we're bringing to you that revision. It's $5.2 million. And then Prop 123 was an increase. That's a state calculation. It's based on ADM and a calculation of the $75 million that's split between all school districts in the state, an increase from that of $131,000. So when you add those three bullets up, that's how you get $4.1 million. We went from a $334 million budget to $338 million. You see that on the cover sheet. The capital budget is an increase of approximately $54,000. That was due to capital still funded on prior year. And so there was an increase in the ADM of approximately, we went from 42,506 kids to 42,614 kids. So there was an increase, and that's why you see the $54,168 increase. And that was revised. They do a budget 75, and they've been updating those. A lot of numbers through last year as they do the revisions into the summer, and then we get the adjustments on that. The next piece to discuss is just the updates in our federal stimulus money that came through. I don't have ESSER 1, 2, or the governor's additional funding from last year that we spent. I just have the funds that we have this year that we have not spent completely. ESSER 3, which is $30,600,000. The Plus Up grant, which is $11 million. We've discussed those in full. Those have not changed, but the next two bullets have changed. We applied last Friday for the 100th Day Grant for $5.5 million, and then also we were just approved in this last month for summer school recovery at $1.8 million and summer enrichment for our community education departments of $1.4. So those had to be included in our federal line items, so those are updated within our federal and state grants. The next thing I want to talk about is the changes between the revision that you approved in September and then the revision that we're doing tonight. Now, as you know, we did a proposed budget in June, we adopted the budget in July, and then in September, we went over a couple changes, mostly the special education changes that took place when the $50 million that the legislature gave out. We didn't get to make those adjustments until in September when you approved it in the first revision. That was the main change that we did in that revision. They didn't have allocations for us at that time, and so that's why we couldn't do it in June or July when we proposed and adopted the budget, but we came back and did that in September with you. Now, we have to update the overall M&O increases based on the AFR and the carryover, and then the revenue control limit that we showed you with the changes. We've updated all of our federal and state grants, and then all of our other funds, which are our cash funds. We've updated, either increased or decreased those funds based on revenues or expenditures. So a couple things that are the main changes in M&O, if you were to go through the line items, the major impacts that we had in M&O, we increased our costs for ESI, which is an agency we use to have our substitute services from. Our employees that are substitutes, we do a purchase service through them, and then we hire our substitutes, get paid through that service through a company called ESI. We increased that, as you know. Our substitutes throughout this year, dealing with COVID, we had additional substitute expenditures, so we've increased that amount in that line item to cover those expenditures that we had this year. We also increased our operations and general liability insurance slightly to match the expenditure from this year. We had some changes between some function codes between our food service operations and M&O. We moved them from what was called a 2600 function code to a 3100 function code. So we just needed a change in one of the line items to account for the accounting codes correctly. We also had to increase our transportation line items for both our overtime and our transportation related to supplies. As you know, we have a shortage of bus drivers, and so the bus drivers that we do have working are doing a great job, but they are working overtime right now. I did do a comparison so you could see back in 18-19, we're around $500,000 in overtime. Now, once COVID took place in 1920, we reduced that overtime to about $340,000, and in 2020-21, it was around $334,000, and we're back up in 21-22 to about $500,000 again. So, again, shortage of that. We've had a shortage of bus drivers. Hard to keep bus drivers. We really value all the bus drivers that we do have. The next line item in transportation that we made an increase on was on supplies. As you know, gas prices, as you are experiencing, we are experiencing the same thing with our fleet. You can see we're back up to approximately where we were at, a little bit more than where we were at in 2018, 2019. We didn't transport the last quarter of 1920, and we did not transport as much in 2021 due to the delay of school starting and then the extracurricular activities not doing as many as we did the prior year. But now we're back up to full force. So those are the major changes in M&O on the expenditure side. On the federal and state grant funds, what we did is we made sure that we updated all of our entitlement grants. Those are like Title I, our IDA Basic, all of the grants that we get through the federal government related to our entitlements. We just make sure that we've updated them compared to the revisions that we've put in through the system, and any additional amounts that maybe had been increased or carryovers as we finished completion reports and our annual financial report from last year. We've also updated our Medicaid amount, our E-rate as we have additional funding in our E-rate sources, our college credit as we got awarded that this year for the number of kids who passed the AP exam, and then results pace as that came out and the awards for each of those schools. So now those reflect not only carryover, but also the amount that we received this fiscal year. So those are all updated. And the last one is your federal stimulus amounts that you saw earlier. We made sure that we aligned those grants as we've applied for them and revised them, and then also as we added those last two that you saw a minute ago related to the 100th day funding, and then our summer school and community ed grants that we applied for. The other funds, which are a lot of your cash funds, some of those, again, we meet with those departments and we updated our food service. As you know, we're serving, I think I heard 40,000 meals per day right now in food service. That budget has jumped millions of dollars because of serving a number of breakfast, lunch, snacks. Our food service team is doing a great job meeting the community needs and our school needs, and has really increased. Auxiliary, as we aligned those budgets, put an increase in that for now, again, this year, that went up compared to last year because now our activities are back and we have participants at our games, all of those things, that has increased. Fingerprint clearance, as we've been fingerprinting our staff to come into work, that's increased. Indirect, we get more indirect in our budget overall because of as the federal grants came in, there's a portion of unrestricted and restricted that you get to pull into the indirect cost fund. CTE, we updated and aligned those funds. Again, we based it originally in July on the prior year. Now we know what the allocation based on our ADM and number of students attending. We updated our bond to match the actual amount of cash that has left, and as we went through the projects with you all. Gifts and donations on the capital side. We've also applied for some building renewal grants to increase that. We've finished off the last allocations and have the exact amount from the high school that we built for the new school facility, updated our debt service, student activities, and then our intergovernment agreements for some of the accounts that we share with cities and other school districts. The only three that we slightly decreased in the overall budget expenditures were our community ed to just align it with our expenditures for the year, our unemployment insurance, just bringing that down to match the expenditures, and then our CTE, which is an Arizona Industry Credentials Incentive, just aligning those budgets appropriately with the revenue and the expenditures. And those are the main changes. Now, just an overall comparison, just kind of wrapping up what we discussed in the changes, our ADM overall, compared to last fiscal year of 2021, has decreased by a total of 260 ADM. So if you were to take last year's ADM compared to right now, and take the last revision on last year's budget, and ultimately this year, there's a difference of 260 ADM. We had decreased some of that in the first revision, and then in the second, and then now in our second revision. The stimulus money has obviously helped us tremendously throughout last year and this year. Huge amounts, as you saw, $50 million that we have just in this year between ESSER 3, the Plus Up grant, and then the 100th day and the summer recovery programs. The annual financial report will be coming to you, so we'll take this budget and we'll actually go over the expenditures with you in either late September or the first part of October, and then we are beginning, you will see in June, the first revision, or the first budget, the proposed budget for next fiscal year. So we won't actually look at this budget again until you do the annual financial report at the end of September, first part of October. What you'll start to hear from us about again in June and July is next year's budget. So this is the last time you'll see the revision to this fiscal year that we're currently in. Do you have any questions for me?
Mr. Worth.
It's more of a comment. I took the time to actually add up all the accounts. It's like 616 million. Yes. Blew me away. Blew me away.
Second largest school district in the state. Definitely a large budget.
Are there any other questions?
I do.
Ms. Love?
Yeah, sorry. Can you go back to like the decreases? I know that I heard you say something about like community ed and CTE, and did you say that it all balanced out? I couldn't really hear what you were.
Sure. So in our community education budget in June and July, we put in an approximate amount of what we think, and then we reduced based on what the actual revenue and expenditures. Our community education department is doing fantastic. Our director, Stephanie Howell, has done a really good job. She's applied for grants in that fund, and we have really done a great job in that department. But compared to what we put in the original budget, compared to our revenue and our expenditures, we just aligned them correctly. So that's why there is a decrease in that line item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Are there any questions from the public, since this is a public hearing? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Berry. We appreciate it. And as always, you give us a very thorough overview of the budget and make things understandable with your explanations. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go on to our citizens' comments, and Terry Locke, who is our Director of Community Relations, is going to summarize the comments that we received online, and then he will be calling up our 3 speakers this evening. Since we do have 3, each speaker will get 3 minutes. Mr. Locke.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Narducci. As a courtesy, we provide an opportunity for the public to submit citizen comments electronically on any topic. This cycle, we heard from 9 people. Their comments fell into the categories of 1, curriculum and instruction, 2, extracurricular activities, and 3, equity and school safety. Submitting comments electronically provides our governing board members time to read and prepare prior to the meeting. This format also provides the board an opportunity to ask clarifying questions to the administration. You have the submissions verbatim for your consideration. They're also available on the website for public review. We'll segue into the in-person comments. During public comments, members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to state statute, action taken as a result of public comments is limited to directing staff to review the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. The board president reserves the right to ensure the speakers present on topics that are within the board's jurisdiction. Everyone is asked to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profanity or threats of harm will not be tolerated. Now, our first speaker tonight is Kurt Rohrs of Chandler to talk about review.
Thank you. My name is Kurt Rohrs. I'm a parent in this district. First, let me point out that last night I spent at ASU at their graduation, where my oldest son just graduated from W.P. Carey School of Business. Alexander is a CUSD kid. He graduated from Hamilton High School and got through the university in 3 years. So thank you very much. He had a great education here. What I wanted to do is review some of the points that I brought up throughout the year. Here's is more or less the last official meeting of the year. In community interaction transparency, please increase the transparency, improve focus on cooperation with the concerned parents as to the activities concerning their children. That could be better. Teacher professional development materials should be made public and easily accessible to parents and community members who want to know more about what their teachers are being trained to do. Classroom presentations and assignments should be accessible to parents electronically. Staff needs to understand if they don't want to disclose it, they probably shouldn't be discussing it in class. In academic performance, improve reading and math scores, set goals, regularly report progress, which we'd like to see here, and redirect non-academic program funding to getting caught up to the point that all schools have at least 50% reading proficiency. In curriculum, reinforce the requirement for teachers to stick to the curriculum they were hired to teach, not to promote their own personal political views in the classroom. In social education, actively support parents' rights in directing the education of their minor children as defined in Arizona statute. Understand and block efforts at de-parenting children in educational activities. SEL curriculum should have a strong component of instruction on marriage, family, and parenting, since these are probably the greatest sources of student anxiety. Change the social focus to recognize that all students are individuals, worthy of their own dignity and respect, and not as members of some faceless identity group. Change focus to recognize the individual character as the measure of acceptable behavior, not color. Reduce the interaction with special interest groups, lobbying to influence school policy. In classrooms, return primary focus of the district to the classroom and the understanding and improvement of the teacher-student interactions to obtain better academic outcomes. Increase the presence of more adults in classrooms to assist teachers. Parents should be invited to strongly encouraged to get back into schools, help teachers in the classroom, and district staff to spend 1 day per month helping teachers in the classroom in order to reconnect with the core mission of teaching kids. This is a very popular proposal out in the community. Improve discipline in classrooms. The administration must provide better backup to teachers on defiant and disruptive students, holding parents responsible for the behavior of their children, and to publish one-page executive summaries.
Time has expired.
Next is Katie Nash of Gilbert. Talk about educators' budget in 301.
Good evening. I just wanted to highlight some of the things that are outlined in the Arizona Education Association's educators budget, which is huge investments that are long overdue in our public education system, including some funding toward community schools, which we have been having conversations about, full-day kindergarten and funding that, possibly preschool. And it is a total of about $1.4 billion, and that taps into the state's $5.3 billion surplus. I know that there are some proposals out there currently by some of our legislators, and they do look pretty nice on paper, but I just want us to dig into what are any of the strings that possibly could be attached to those, what deals legislators might be making to trade that budget or something similar with vouchers. I know we've had some conversations about vouchers previously, and I think there's some good points that we've made before that there really is not room for our students to go to private schools. And you can already go to a private school for free as long as you have some STOs, school tuition organizations. So corporations and your friends and buddies can help pool their money together to get you to go to a private school for free. I don't know why we need to do that. We should be investing in our public schools right now as it is and making those the best they can, as opposed to diverting our money out towards private schools. The two things are mutually exclusive. There's the educator's budget and then there's vouchers. They don't need to be voted on together. They're currently not in a bill together, so we need to keep focused on, yes, we can absolutely support a budget, but we don't also then have to support vouchers. And then lastly, just looking at this updated budget, it is beautiful. Who doesn't want more money coming into our public schools? And we've done an amazing job on focusing on our students and families and trying to recoup people to CUSD. But we also need to focus on our employees. There are neighboring districts offering raises of 4 to 7%. They're beating our starting salary. They've got retention stipends out the wazoo. I was just on a call hearing that Tucson Unified is offering a 1% raise for every year you have been in service in a district, which was outstanding. And I know this is a district of choice, and we want it to be a choice for our families, but also our employees. And we do not want to have PD or any other extra things tied to these additional dollars that could be coming in. We already have to spend money on childcare, dinner, gas, et cetera, to attend those, so they should be done within our workday during contract time or our work days before the school year begins. Thank you.
Next is Crystal Markowski to speak of Chandler, speak on the 2023 political agenda.
Madam President and board members, thank you for your time tonight. I'm a parent of students in the district. Last meeting, a district student came forward and shared about the intolerance and discrimination that she and her fellow students face at school. She asked for consideration on the 2023 agenda of defining equity goals. Y'all discussed the priorities from ASBA, and they're up again tonight. I note that the priorities outlined mostly relate to funding, which, as we know and was just discussed, are vitally important, especially as the legislature is actively working to defund the public schools. But may I also invite you to consider suggesting to ASBA a goal or agenda item related to equity and student safety. You may have seen the news that the Phoenix Union District actually just recently adopted a resolution to oppose discrimination against trans students. In light of what we heard last meeting, perhaps at a bare minimum, a resolution opposing racial and homophobic discrimination against our CUSD students is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone who came out this evening to speak to us on topics that are near and dear to their hearts or they want us to hear about. So we do appreciate you coming and expressing those views and making comments. We'll now move on to our consent agenda, and that will be presented by Mr. Narducci. It is quite lengthy this evening.
I hope everybody has a comfortable seat because we have 20 items in the consent agenda. So the first item is out-of-state student travel and pre-planning. Out-of-state field trips, pre-planning forms for ACP High School and Camille Castile High School is provided following governing board pre-approval. Dr. Gilbert will monitor the trip arrangements before providing final approval. The governing board will receive a summary of the final travel arrangements quarterly. The final trip approval will be determined on a case-by-case basis, and that'll be contingent upon the current health guidelines within that community. Under 10.2, monetary gifts, we request the approval of the monetary gifts generously donated to Chandler Unified Schools, totaling $24,118.54. Under donations, we request the approval of the items generously donated to Chandler Schools, totaling $100,406.91. Authorization to exceed fund subsections within the maintenance and operations budget per Arizona Revised Statute ARS 15-905. G, the governing board policy DBJ. The governing board may authorize the expenditure of monies budgeted within the maintenance and operations sections of the budget for any subsection within this section in excess of the amounts specified in the adopted budget, only by action taken at a public meeting of the governing board, and if the expenditures for all subsections of the section do not exceed the amount budgeted as provided in this section. Recommended authorization to exceed the fund subsections within the maintenance and operations budget. Under secondary curriculum, U.S. History, the African American Experience. U.S. History, the African American Experience will be a new elective offered to students in the 22-23 academic year. The text is current. The text is the current resource used by Chandler Gilbert Community College in History 204 class and has been vetted by teachers and academic coaches. The course will be offered as dual credit. The committee is recommending the following textbooks to move forward in the textbook adoption process: Gates Jr., Henry Lewis, and Donald Yacovone, The African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross, New York's Smiley Books 2013. The cost for the class set of 40 is $899.70, including estimated tax, shipping, and processing fees. There are no student digital components. This will be funded through site funds. This information was presented to the board on March 9th, 2022, in accordance with ARS 15-721. The textbook was placed on display for 60-day review period for comment at the Melinda Romero Instructional Resource Center. Starting on March 10th, 2022, there were no public comments. Secondary curriculum, U.S. History, the Mexican American Experience. U.S. History, the Mexican American Experience will be a new elective offered to students in the 22-23 academic year. The text is the current resource used by Chandler Gilbert Community College in their History 109 class and has been vetted by teachers and academic coaches. The course will be offered as dual credit. The committee is recommending the following textbooks to move forward in the textbook adoption process: Griswold del Castillo, Richard, and Arnaldo de Leon, North to Aztlan, a History of Mexican Americans in the United States, section, second edition, New York Twain Publishers, 2006. The cost of the class set is $1,207.36, including estimated tax, shipping, and processing. There are no digital components. This will be funded through site funds. This information was presented to the board on March 9th, 2022 as well, in accordance with ARS 15-721. The textbook was placed on display for the 60-day review period for comments at the Melinda Romero Instructional Resource Center starting March 10th, 2022, and there were no public comments. Approval of 2022-23 curriculum and resources. Chandler Unified School District uses curricula aligned in the Arizona State standards in order to meet the diverse learning needs of students. The primary and supplementary curricular list for all grades and content areas for the 22-23 school year is being presented for approval. The curricular list is presented annually to the governing board for approval. Additionally, Chandler Unified School District uses digital resources aligned to the Arizona State standards in order to meet the diverse learning needs of our students. The attached lists of website subscriptions, online applications, and software used in the district are being presented for approval for the 2022-2023 school year. According to board policy, IJJ, textbook supplementary materials, selection and adoption, the board must also approve the deletion, removal of previously adopted textbooks or supplementary materials as well. The attached list of resources no longer are being used in COSD and are being presented for approval. Purchase of Mac computers for CTE classrooms. Student-centered learning and academic excellence is the area that we're hitting on our Journey 2025. We recommend approval to purchase Mac computers for the following CTE programs in schools: Castile High School for digital photography, 31; Chandler High School graphic design, 31 computers; Chandler High School, the CTEC game design, 5 computers; Hamilton High School digital photography, 31; and Perry High School graphic design, 31. CTE Mac labs are evaluated on a regular basis and updated accordingly to ensure that the labs function at the highest level, which includes the ability to run the most current operating system and related software programs per industry standards. The Mac computers will be used to operate studio equipment, enable students to create a digital portfolio, and allow students to produce and edit media. Any existing Mac computers that are in good working condition will be repurposed in applicable CTE programs. Mac computers that are no longer functioning properly will be sent to surplus. Request approval to purchase computers from Apple Computer Incorporated in the amount of $561,209.86, utilizing state contract bid ADSPO 16098839, which complies with all school district procurement rules. Hamilton High School cafeteria furniture. The district is requesting board approval to purchase furniture for the newly renovated cafeteria space at Hamilton High School per the attached quote. The new furniture purchased will allow for seating up to 936 students. The current setup at Hamilton High School is the original furniture from 1998 and only allows for seating of 600 students. The furniture order will comply with all required procurement rules. With board approval, the cafeteria furniture will be purchased from School Source in the amount of $439,142.05, including tax, freight, and installation using IGPA 19-02 PV-10. The Bogle Junior High classroom furniture, and I want to thank Lauren Randall, our business services director, who saved us a little over $200,000 on this bid. The district is requesting board approval to purchase classroom furniture for Bogle Junior High per the attached quote. The furniture is replacing classroom desks, chairs, tables, bookcases, and filing cabinets as a continuing plan to upgrade teaching and learning environments at our older schools. The furniture order will comply with all required procurement rules. With the board approval, the classroom furniture will be purchased from School Source in the amount of $404,573.54, including tax, freight, installation using the IGA 19-02 PV-10. Contract increase ESI. The board approved Mojave Contract 17A ESI 018 for temporary employment and recruitment services, which estimated spending of $5,500,000 on June 9th, 2021. Based on current expenditures and increased need for site-based subs, the district is seeking approval to increase the total amount of to $8,500,000 needed for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year. I wish that was $800,000, but it's $8,500,000. Contract increase, SAVE 21-22-26 contract. The board approved the SAVE contract number 2122-26 for instructional aids and supplies with estimated spending of $250,000 on March 30th, 2022. Multiple vendors were awarded under the contract, and the district can utilize such vendors as Lakeshore Learning Materials, Ward's Science, Flynn Scientific, and Dick Blick Art Supplies. Based on the current expenditures and anticipated spending for the remainder of the fiscal year 21-22, the district is seeking approval to increase the total amount by $50,000 for instructional supplies and materials needed for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. Sole source production equipment for food and nutrition. Recommend approval to contract with Trimark as the source provider for, as the sole source provider for a one-time purchase of major production equipment needed for the food and nutrition renovation. The sole source determination is provided. With board approval, Trimark will provide customized kitchen production equipment for the CUSD food and nutrition in the amount of $1,991,315.73. Contract increase for toner. Everything is going up. Board approved annual contracts with estimated spending on June 9th, 2021. At the time, $400,000 was estimated for toner, utilizing state contract ADSPO 18-208273, which was awarded to Buy on Purpose. That's the name, Buy on Purpose. CVR Computer Supplies and Smart Group Systems and TIC Express. The district is requesting approval to increase to the total amount of $450,000 for toner needed for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. Contract increase, Tech 24. The board approved annual contracts with estimated spending on June 9th, 2021. At the time, $400,000 was estimated for Tech 24 to provide equipment repairs and maintenance utilizing CUSD contract 19-22-26. The district is requesting approval to increase the total amount to $450,000 for additional repairs needed for the remainder of the 21-22 school year. Contract increase, AZ Restaurant Supply. The board approved an increase for the Arizona Restaurant Supply for food service equipment utilizing Mojave contract 17K-AZRS-0714 on December 8th, 2021 to $500,000 for the equipment needed to remodel the kitchen at Hamilton High School and Food and Nutrition. The district is requesting an additional increase of $100,000 to increase the total contract amount to $600,000 for equipment needed for the kitchen updates at Perry High School, Bash High School, such as ovens, warmers, display cases, and refrigerators. We're almost there, folks. Elementary technology purchase. Request approval to purchase 960 student technology devices from Apple Incorporated for a total cost of $873,339.53. The devices will be housed in 32 charging carts and distributed across 31 elementary sites and one for training. The purchase includes 32 carts, protective hard cases. Each charging cart has 10 additional spaces for growth. Logitech Crayon Education iPad, professional development for educational technology coaches, Pro Apple services with preloaded COSD image and device management license app and applications for iPad, and of course the warranty. Devices will be distributed to kindergarten through second grade classrooms to increase engagement of students in small group structures and to provide individualized and small group interventions and extensions in reading, resulting in increased proficiency. The Apple quotes are provided. The district is requesting approval to purchase the items on the quote from Apple Incorporated in the amount of $873,339.53, utilizing state contract ADSPO 16-098839, which complies with all school district procurement rules. Chromebook purchases as well. The district is requesting approval to purchase 500 Chromebooks for warehouse stock in the amount of $234,443.44 from Insight Public Sector using Omnia Partners Contract 4400006644. The computers will be used in the secondary sites for the 22-23 school year. And then we have targeted support for an improvement grant. The district is requesting to continue the $25,000 in funding level for Bogle Junior High School to support their special education subgroup for 2022-23 school year. Bogle has used targeted support and improvement grant funds this year to provide after-school tutoring to students with an IEP, an ALEKS, licenses for math support, and professional development by Solutions Tree to support collaboration between general and special educators to ultimately support student academic success. And our last item is human resources, employment, separation, and compensation. All for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci.
You are so welcome.
That's a very long consent agenda tonight. Could I please get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next, we have our action items, and the first one is our fee schedules for the 2022-2023 school year. Leo.
Madam President, members of the board, let me borrow up here. Pursuant to ARS 15-342, a school district may charge fees for school activities and programs. The board recognizes the need for student fees to fund certain school activities that are not financed by local, state, or federal funds. It also recognizes that some students may not be able to pay these fees. All fees shall contain a provision that allows the fees to be waived in the event of economic hardship to the pupil. No student will be denied an education as a result of inability to pay these supplementary charges. Elementary, secondary, and CTE course activity changes highlighted in red have minimally increased from the previous board-approved fee schedules. Fees that are black are at no change from the previous school year. ACP High School added increased course fees are due to courses being added or expanded for the new campus. CTE course fee changes were also minor and were necessary to cover the cost of increased materials, supply prices, or were due to a new course being added or deleted. Items to note: the AP exam fee is being increased by $4 to match the current exam cost that is set by the College Board. The device protection plan has changed from an initial one-time fee to be a yearly fee of $25. The K-12 instrument rental fee is increasing from $40 to $60 for the 22-23 school year, and will increase again to $80 for the 23-24 school year. This price increase will help cover the cost of maintenance, cleaning of these band and orchestra instruments. The extracurricular activity fee schedule is for the elementary and secondary extracurricular activity fee schedule. It's also attached for approval. There are no changes to this fee schedule from the previous school year. Community education fee changes are highlighted in red. They've increased by approximately 4% from the previous board-approved fee schedules. The child care changes were due to the 4% salary increase for classified staff and the increased minimum early childhood teacher salary. The enrichment and facility rental charges are more closely aligned with our competitors and/or surrounding districts. Also included on this fee schedule are COGAT, our Gifted and Kindergarten Readiness Test. We call it our KRT fees. The Gifted Department currently charges $120 for our COGAT gifted testing. This fee covers the proctors needed to administer the test and the testing materials. The Gifted Department does not anticipate a fee increase from this current amount. The Assessment Department currently charges $130 for the Kindergarten Readiness Test. It's called our KRT test. This fee covers the proctors needed to administer the test and testing materials. A fee increase is not anticipated. We recommend approval of the fee schedules as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Schluter. Are there any other, is there a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the proposed 2022-2023 fee schedule.
Second.
Are there any questions? I have one about the gifted testing and the kindergarten readiness testing. Are those tests given to every child, or is this kind of a optional parent item that if they're requesting an addition, because I know that we do end up having a kindergarten, the KIST testing is what we used to do, where it was, but is this something that is being required of all students coming into kindergarten and for all students to go into the gifted program?
So I'm going to hand it over to our assessment specialist, Dr. Fletcher, who can answer some of those.
Thank you, members of the board. So we do test all of our students on gifted testing in the second grade. The gifted testing, though, that has the fee affiliated with it is the parent choice to assess them. The same as with the KRT, or kindergarten readiness test. That is a parent choice for parents who would like to enroll their students who don't meet the birth date deadline to be 5. They can ask to have them tested at the age of 4, and that is what they pay the fee for the KRT.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Love.
So I noticed that some of the fees are different depending on the site. So like ACP's Advanced Women's Choir, that increased to 75, while Chandler's remains at 25, Hamilton's at 35. How does that get determined at the site level? Like what's different from the ACP Advanced Women's Choir to Hamilton and Chandler?
I don't have an exact answer for you, and I can get the answer. I would imagine it would be due to any of the, I mean, it's based on the events or what they're participating in, if that's what we're talking about. And those may fluctuate depending from year to year, depending upon what those organizations or what those clubs are participating in. But they do fall within the ECA, the extracurricular guidelines that you adopted as a board to begin with.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, like, how does somebody make it known that they have a financial hardship for these kinds of things? Like, where could they go?
All of our, posted on all of our websites, all of our school websites, we have all our fees listed, and we do have there's an area where you can go and pull down a form. Many of the sites actually too will provide that. Just as they talk to families, as they understand the family dynamics, they'll offer that form as well if need be. It's a form that gets filled out, it gets reviewed at the site level, and then the site principal has discretion to sign off on that, and then that fee will get waived.
Do we foresee any impacts to the community with the increased fees for some of our community ed program hikes like Kids Express, Little Explorers, Early Childhood?
I would have Ms. Bailey answer that for community ed.
Yes, that's part of the packet, is the community ed increases. As you know, our salaries have gone up. We just approved an increase in our classified salary, which is the majority of all of our community ed employees. So salaries increased, benefits increased. We also have an increase in supplies. The last couple of years, we've been able to pay for the food through the universal feeding program. And now we have to go back to potentially paying for those. And just as you see in all expenditures, they've gone up with inflation. So we have a 4% almost. There's different changes in the lineups, but pretty much across the board, a 4% increase on our community education fees. Now, remember, all of these are extracurricular fees typically, except for a couple, like on the replacement for the computers, or I'm sorry, the $25, it's a protection plan. You don't even have to purchase it. So again, they're extracurricular. You don't have to. They're voluntary programs that you want to select to be part of. And again, there is a waiver for principals to waive off on some of those. Same thing we try if it's on community education. There's DES and other forms for them to pay for after school. But again, they're extra. They're not part of the normal school day. And then principals also have to have the funds available to be able to waive that off. So you can't just waive the fee because somebody else can't pick up that fee. You've got to have a gift and donation or some other fund. You can't just charge it to another kid. So we have mechanisms to look for that too.
Thank you.
And Ms. Love, we've held down our any fee changes. We've been in Kids Express and our programs there because we know how valuable child care is, and especially the early child care for working parents. And so we've only really attached fees that assimilate the additional costs that we're absorbing, based on, as Ms. Berry said, cost of additional staffing or staffing raises, et cetera. Those are always absorbed by the services that we provide.
I want to make sure, I understand, why we increased. I just want to, have we heard any feedback from the community, or, what is the anticipated feedback from this? I'm just wondering if we have, a narrative for that for them.
We don't specifically probably go out to survey on a fee schedule. It's just based on the expenditures related to our programs, and with an increase in salaries, we don't go back and say we don't ask the community necessarily if they want to approve the raises or not in that program. We do have a budget committee that we present, and we have a Super Q committee, and in the budget committee we present and talk about the raises that the Super Q committee has presented. But with that, and we can't necessarily always control the cost of some of the supplies. We can bid them, but we can't control that. But we don't necessarily go out to the community to ask about the increase in the price. We do go compare, for example, in preschool costs or Little Explorers, we compare our competitors out there and try to compare to make sure that we stay within in that alignment of that. But that's pretty much the extent of what we do.
Thank you.
I was just going to comment that, with the changes in minimum wage and the increases that we've seen over the last, 4 years, I think, 3
Since
years?
Prop 204 went through, yes.
Yeah, and then the inflation that we're seeing for supplies and the raises that we've been giving staff, I can see, and I think everywhere, prices of programs like for Lil Explorers or something like that it just has to go up because you can't, if you're not charging enough to pay the salaries and the supplies and everything else for those staff members and what you need for the program, we wouldn't be able to have the program. So I understand, as much as I don't like it, I truly understand, because it's expensive. When you think about, like for an infant, we're looking at over $1,000 a month for childcare. And that gets very, very pricey. And unfortunately, though, I know the child-to-teacher ratio in those classes are quite a bit lower than, let's say, a kindergarten class, because you can't handle 25 or 30 babies, infants. So I can truly see, how tough it is, especially if you're, working parents or even a working teacher. And I do appreciate seeing that we at least do give a discount to our staff members also for these programs. And it's very convenient for them to, in some cases, be on their own site. So I appreciate all that.
Well, Madam President, also our facilities meet the highest standards because they are licensed facilities. Some child care have chosen not to be licensed. We are licensed, and so we do have options for parents who qualify for reduced services for some of our programming through DES, et cetera. But it's just important for our parents to know, too, that comes with quality checks, with making sure facilities are well maintained and that they're safe and that they're run properly and that the ratios of adults meet the state requirements, like the ratio for infants is 5 to 1, and we have to have 2 to 20 in our regular child care facilities for others. So it comes with the double-sided coin that you have to meet all these requirements, but it's also great for our kids because they are inspected quite often as well.
And it is definitely a hallmark of quality childcare programs for when you are a certified program and have quality staff and certified teachers that are in those preschool programs. So thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the fee schedules approving the fee schedules for the 2022-2023 school year, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Next, we will talk about the Hamilton High School kitchen renovation and Sallyport. And Mr. Tom Dunn will be talking with us about, or presenting that. And also, I believe, at least another 2 items after that.
A little shorter list tonight than last board meeting. Madam President, members of the board, good evening. My name is Tom Dunn, Director of Construction. Hamilton High School was built in 1998 and currently has an approximate enrollment of 3,800 students. Kitchen and dining areas are in need of upgrades in order to improve efficiencies and increase the speed of service for students during lunch. Hamilton has 3 lunches of approximately 1,280 students per lunch, and currently the indoor seating capacity is 320 students, 660 when we include the outdoor. District proposes enclosing the outdoor dining area in order to increase the seating capacity to 936 and add a pod or provisions on demand market, as well as provide a space for community use. As part of this project, the district will propose adding a Sallyport to the front entrance, as the current design requires a security guard station there to direct traffic to the main office. This project will consist of 2 phases. Phase 1, enclose outdoor dining area, remove masonry and raise seating area, also called faculty dining in the GMP, and then add the Sallyport. Phase 2 would consist of the kitchen remodel, which would include equipment and utilities, also update the serving line and the current roll-up doors. A request for qualifications was issued and McCarthy Building Companies was selected as the general contractor of record. The district has negotiated a guaranteed maximum price for Phase 1 of this project in the amount of $3,668,251, which the district believes to be fair and reasonable given the current market conditions. Recommend approval of McCarthy Building Companies to complete Phase 1 of the Hamilton High School kitchen renovation in Sallyport in the amount of $3,668,251.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Could I please get a motion?
I would like to move that we approve the Hamilton High School kitchen renovation in Sallyport.
I'll second it.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Dunn or our staff? I'm sure Mr. Olive has some questions.
I just have one thing, and I know that this outdoor dining area and the kitchen remodel and kitchen equipment at Hamilton is badly needed. I had not seen the Sallyport on this item when we talked about it before, and I know the school, and I've been there many times, and you do have to. If you're going to visit the school, you can walk right past the office and not be steered there unless the guard is there, and it makes sense to put a few doors there to steer people into the office. So you have to go by the check-in to get into campus. But if we think this is going to increase our security, we're fooling ourselves. And so like the other day, I got on Google Earth and I was curious because we have all these high-resolution photographs from above, and we can look and see if the gates have ever been closed. And so I started looking at the gates at Hamilton, the north gate coming off up by the old teacher parking, the south gate coming from the student parking lot, and they're closed occasionally on the weekends. And then I noticed that there's like the blue line on Google Earth where you can drop the little guy to go where the Google Earth car is gone. The Google Earth car wandered onto Hamilton campus and was driving around behind the secure area, or supposed to be a secure area at Hamilton campus, taking pictures and doing their thing. So unless we can keep the Google Earth car from wandering aimlessly into the campus, we're kind of, security is kind of relaxed, and only honest people are going to be stopped by, the extra doors at the office. That's my bit for now.
Thank you, Mr. Olive.
Good question.
Yes, Mr. Worth.
Is that something we should consider tabling this?
It's very hard to secure high school campuses because you constantly have, special needs people, that might be part day, half day coming in and out, people that have jobs going in and out, deliveries going in and out, garbage trucks, facilities, people taking care of the facilities. School security is, it's a serious thing, but it's really super hard when if you try to really be serious about it, you have to turn it into a prison to keep the bad guys out if there are any bad guys.
If I may.
Yeah.
The front doors, I don't know if Sallyport is the best name for what we're doing with the front doors.
It's like an entry alcove.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking the second set of doors, moving them 6 to 8 feet closer inside the campus so that you then have to walk directly into the office.
You have to go by a reception basically to get in.
So right now the doors are on the wrong side of the office door. We're going to put them on the right side of the office door so that they have to. So for that one point of entry, it will help. It will help parents and any visitors coming to Hamilton through
That'll
the
help
front
manage
entry.
that door. That'll help manage that door a lot, so
Correct.
you don't have to have the security guy there.
Correct.
For sure.
Correct. Does it solve all of the secure issues at Hamilton? No.
Madam President, let's all remind ourselves that Hamilton is an all under one roof school. And if security is monitoring the exterior doors, while Mr. Olive is correct, a car can drive around the parking lot. But as long as security is monitoring the main access doors and the other doors are locked, we should not have an issue with people getting on our campus other than through the front door, unless somebody lets them in.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Ms. Love?
Well, I guess because Hamilton has a public library entrance, and I know that was kind of how we would ditch, is go out through the public library. I never did. Never did. Ask my dad, I was good. But would that be an issue that you're talking about in terms of somebody potentially coming in through there.
Well, it's just, there's 100 holes in every high school, and the kids know where they are. If you're familiar with the campus, you know where they are. Honest people, they'll go up to the front door where the flagpole is, and they'll have to get directed through the front office. That was just my point of that whole thing.
Okay.
Miss Love, I believe that door is locked.
Good. It was not locked back in the early
And
2000s.
we're not really worried about the students getting off the campus.
Yeah, well,
No,
but that's
just
what I'm
kidding.
saying. I'm like, if
Worried
I
about
can,
people getting on the
if I could get off campus, and shake some security, then what stops somebody from coming in? But those doors were not locked in the early 2000s.
Well, I can tell you, I went in that door because I needed to get into the MDF, and I had security there within less than 5 minutes. Like, who are you? Like, well, I know I belong here.
That's good. Back in the day, it was just the librarians. Like, are you supposed to be here? There was one cool one that didn't ask, but we're not talking about that.
I had asked if he was returning a library book, so just to make sure why he was testing those doors, so thank you.
So I have one other question. You mentioned, as you were presenting, about like a teacher's eating area that's going to be open?
So on the plans, it's called either an atrium or faculty dining, but it's not used for either. It was more of a architectural feature. So when you walk into Hamilton High School, you'll see an old clock and a large block wall. And on the other side of that is raised seating that is hard to utilize, and it creates a pinch point for our students as they're coming from the campus into the dining area. And so as part of increasing the seating and also to help with the efficiencies of the flow of students, we're going to remove that architectural feature, take the block wall down and level the seating area so it's at the ground level so that we can increase seating. So those will be seats there.
Okay.
Yes.
When you mentioned that, I was a little worried that our poor staff wasn't going to have
No,
a place to eat on campus.
That's just what's referred to on the plans.
It was
Okay.
it was original.
Okay.
That was the original faculty eating area.
Correct.
And we didn't pay for the clock either. The architect did.
Okay. If there's no other questions, all those in favor of approving McCarthy Building Companies to complete the Hamilton High School kitchen renovation in Sallyport, please say aye.
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 The motion carries.
I just want to mention this is just for phase one. Phase two, GMP will be coming in the next meeting or two as we're finalizing costs. We did budget $6 million for the entire project, and I do believe we'll be within that total cost.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have our Phase 3 elementary school playground refresh. I know we've been working on this for quite a while.
Quite a while. Madam President, members of the board, thank you. The Phase 3 elementary school playground refresh was part of the 2019 bond. Playgrounds at the elementary schools were to be upgraded, updated. This project has been broken into 3 phases. As you know, Phase 1 was the pre-1990 schools, Phase 2, 1990 to 2005, and Phase 3, 2005 to current. On February 24, 2001, the governing board approved the guaranteed maximum price for Phase 1, and on October 27, 2021, the governing board approved the guaranteed maximum price for Phase 2. As Phase 2 is nearing completion, it's time to move forward with Phase 3. The schools included in Phase 3 are listed below: Carlson Elementary, CTA Freedom, CTA Independence, Fulton Elementary, Haley Elementary, Hancock Elementary, Navarrete Elementary, Patterson Elementary, Riggs Elementary, Ryan Elementary, and San Marcos Elementary. Core Construction is the general contractor of record and has submitted a guaranteed maximum price of $4,738,327. District has evaluated this guaranteed maximum price and find it to be fair and reasonable in the current market.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to, one last line.
Yes.
Requesting approval of core construction for guaranteed maximum price of $4,738,327 for the playground refresh of these 11 schools.
Thank you. Could I please get a motion?
Madam President, I would like to move that we approve core construction for a guaranteed maximum price of $4,738,327 for the playground refresh Phase 3.
I'll second.
All right, are there any questions? I had one. When I'm looking at the bid, and I just see that there seems to be quite a difference in the bid prices depending on which school they're going into. And could you, like for Ryan, it's $141,000 while another school is $462,000. Could you explain, I guess, what are we looking at and why is there such a big difference in the prices of a playground refresh between those schools?
Sure, great question. So typically the major costs at the playground refresh are the poured in place rubber surfacing, so below our playgrounds, the rubber surfacing, or complete removal and replacement of the play structures. So Ryan being one of our newer schools, it didn't require any new play structures, and the rubber turf was in better shape but still needs some work. But if you see the rubber turf cost, like at Carlson, it's $134,000, but at Ryan, it's only $51,000. If you look down to the playground equipment, such as Fulton, we're replacing a structure, it's $179,000. At Ryan, we're just replacing slides and a few ladders and some parts, some decks, so it's only $32,000. So that's usually the two biggest expenses.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions?
My only comment, it's hard to believe that Carlson's already due for this. It's only 9 years old or something. Yeah. Was it 9?
It was built in, I have to go back my years, 12, 13? No. Yeah, in 2012. So
10 years old.
12, 13, so 10 years old. I didn't wear it down, I promise.
Time flies. All right, if there's no other questions, all those in favor of the playground refresh, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Next, we have our food and nutrition renovation. Mr. Dunn?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, this is for our central kitchen location. Central Kitchen was built in 1992 when the district had 17 schools. Currently, Food Nutrition operates and Central Kitchen operates like a commercial food manufacturing facility, as the Food Nutrition Department serves 40,000 students daily. Kitchen equipment has reached end-of-life expectancy and is becoming less efficient and at times not operable. Scope of this project includes epoxy flooring, FRP in the production area, kitchen equipment, replace drop ceiling in the production area, rework electrical and compressed air, walk-in production cooler, a walk-in storage cooler, new carpet in the front office, bathroom remodels, and LED lighting. Request for qualifications was issued and Core Construction was selected as the general contractor of record. District has negotiated a guaranteed maximum price for this project in the amount of $4,444,562, which the district believes is fair and reasonable given the market conditions. Recommend approval of Core Construction to complete the central kitchen renovation in the amount of $4,444,562.
Thank you. Could I get a motion, please?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve Core Construction to complete the central kitchen renovations in the amount of $4,444,562.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have a couple.
Yes, Mr.
But
Worth.
actually,
Go ahead, Mr. Worth.
maybe somebody else should ask the questions, but when we walked to the cafeteria, I noticed that Jason noted that a wall was bowed between the freezer and the warehouse, and then he also noted that he thought there was some issues on the roof. Was that addressed?
So no, neither will be addressed. I know the roof did come up in a 2019 assessment, but based on visual inspection by the district, as well as no known leaks and no work orders for leaks, we didn't feel like it was prudent at this time to address the roof. The bowed wall in the freezer was as a result of a forklift, I think, that hit the wall. It's more of a visual issue than it is structural or performance of that freezer.
I did have a question.
Yes,
So,
Mrs. Bruner.
when we did the tour, we saw some devices that seemed like in the long run it would actually be a cost saving because of less need for employees to be involved in the process. And I was wondering if you could explain.
Yeah, I think Ms. Bracamani would be better to answer that one.
Members of the board, thank you very much. So the equipment that we're trying to put in the central kitchen is not to reduce the number of employees that we have, just use their labor more efficiently. So instead of, for example, hand scooping ranch into gallon bags, we would have a machine that did that same task and would take that employee less time. So then we can make sure that our employees are focusing on the best of what we need them to focus on and not just a manual task.
This is more for Tom, I think, or Mr. Dunn. The price here that we're seeing does not include some of the sole source equipment that we approved earlier this evening, and some of the, I think there's been some other equipment too that we have approved.
That is correct.
So that is not rolled into this price, that is in additional, so we're looking at like a little over 7 million for
Right,
this.
so this one, because of some funds that we were using and the way we had to procure it, we did procure equipment 3 ways. One was through that sole source that was on the consent agenda. One was through a Mojave contract with Arizona Restaurant Supply that you, I think, have already approved. And then the third set of equipment was through this GMP with Core.
Okay.
That's correct. So then all combined would be the total cost of renovation. I think around 7 million is what was budgeted.
Okay.
Madam President, if I can add, Mr. Fletcher and Mr. Dunn have been very creative in how they secured equipment, and Ms. Bracamonte, equipment's very hard to find, and for them to find one for this magnitude, they did us a wonderful job parting it out this way to be able to get things as they were available. So I do want to express my appreciation, because I don't think we'd be talking about getting ready for a build if the equipment wasn't secured. So,
do we know approximately how long this project is going to take from demo to up and running?
Yeah, we do. So we are starting at the end of May. So we'll make safe as soon as the students are out. We'll start the demo at the end of May. Into this summer, June, July, we'll be doing a lot of the major renovations in the production area, but allowing Jenny to have access to the coolers that she still needs to service the summer programs. We've already started to get equipment in, and so we're storing that at the Perry Auxiliary Yard. We're starting to get it in. It's coming in through November is when we anticipate the rest of the equipment coming, with some, specifically the walk-in coolers, not arriving till March. But we're doing all of the prep work this summer for those walk-in coolers. We're hoping January, Ms. Bracamani will have her kitchen back and will be full production by January. And then just coming in and replacing a few last items as far as equipments or the walk-in coolers in March.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, one other item. We are replacing the diesel generator with natural gas, which won't be until next summer. It's 12-month lead time, so.
Okay.
That'll be the official last piece.
Okay. Thank you. If there's no other, yes, Mr.
I
Olive.
only had one question. Thank you for sending me answers to the other questions before. The only thing I had to say is I was just going to ask if the contractor is comfortable with the contingency being this low with this old building. Are they okay?
I will tell you, Mr. Olive, that Core Construction has one of the best estimators I've ever seen. So if Ms. Bechelar is comfortable with this number, we're comfortable with this number.
All righty then.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor of I'm at the next one already, sorry. Approving Core Construction to complete the central kitchen renovation, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next, we have our annual comprehensive financial report. Mrs. Berry.
Madam President, members of the board, tonight the annual comprehensive financial report and single audit report package are presented for your approval. Also presented are the Uniform System of Financial Record Compliance Questionnaire and the Questionnaire Findings Response. And so tonight we have Mrs. Jennifer Schild. She is the partner at Heinfeld and Meach, and she is going to go over the audit with you. And then I'm going to talk at the end. I'll go over some of the audit findings and how we address those. And I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer. Her and her team do an excellent job for us.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Narducci. As Ms. Berry said, I'm here to present the results of the June 30th, 2021 audit. As we get started here, we will go through the audit timeline. So I'll just state that the audit is a very long process. We started the process back last May, and then you can see based on the information on the slide that we performed procedures basically starting from May all the way throughout when the audit report was actually issued back in December of 2021. So there's a lot of work that goes into this. In terms of the scope of the audit services that we provide, what we are hired to do is to perform an audit in accordance with U.S. Generally accepted auditing standards, rather. We also are required to follow government auditing standards, and that is because the district is the recipient of a single audit. And then we also perform procedures in accordance with uniform guidance, which that is the single audit piece of it. We also are hired to complete the USFR compliance questionnaire, and I'll talk a little bit about all of these different things. So in terms of the responsibilities of auditor and management, we've outlined those for you. So just to point out that the purpose of an audit is not to actually find fraud. What the purpose of the audit is to do is to design audit procedures that would provide a reasonable assurance that if anything significant was amiss, that would be uncovered. Ultimately, it's management and the internal controls that are established here at the board level and as management through the district. It's your responsibility to make sure you design and implement internal controls to protect district assets from loss, theft, misuse, et cetera. Regarding fraud communications, we do a number of different inquiries with members. They're a board member every year, as well as just management and other key employees throughout the district based on the audit procedures. So there are some significant estimates in the financial statements. Those are listed up there. Most notably, what they are include the depreciable assets. So that is an estimate because the depreciation expense is based on the estimated useful life of a particular asset. And so that's the estimate there. Also, there are a number of estimates involved with employee health insurance. So in terms of claims that may be out there for employees and their dependents for insurance coverage. And then also the biggest one is probably related to the Arizona State Retirement System's the district's portion of the unfunded pension liability, and that those estimates all come from the ASRS plan itself. So in terms of audit adjustments, there were no audit adjustments that are required to be reported to the board, so that is good news. If we were to uncover an audit adjustment that needed to be made to the financial records of the district that was significant, it would warrant disclosure here tonight, and we would bring that before you, but there was nothing to that effect. As I mentioned earlier, we do perform non-audit services, and what those non-audit services are is we are contracted also to assist in the preparation of the financial statements, and there are several documents that you were provided earlier, the financial statements being the largest piece of that. It's over 150 pages long. So when we do that, what we do is we take information from the district's accounting system and we make any audit adjustments that are required for conversion for external financial reporting. So we do make those adjustments. Those adjustments are presented to management for review and approval prior to the issuance of the actual financial statements themselves. We also assist with the preparation of what's called the CFA, which is the Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards. And again, similar to the financial statements, that information all comes from the district's accounting system. And then there's a related form that gets filled out online with the federal government, which is called the data collection form. And so we assist with the completion of that particular document. Our audit standards require there are two-way communications with the board and the auditor. So that's the purpose of tonight's presentation. So the required communications involve letting the board know that we had no disagreements with management regarding accounting practices or other audit matters. Management did provide the required representations at the conclusion of the audit, basically that they attest that whatever information the audit team requested, they provided. And then just to, we're independent auditors, so we have an obligation to maintain independence. And we go through a process within our office to make sure that each one of the members of the audit team maintains their independence with respect to everyone here at the district. And we also obviously go through and make sure not only are we independent, but we meet our other relevant ethical requirements that are required of our profession. So in terms of the actual audit reports that we issued, you can see them listed up there. There's what's known as the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the Single Audit Reporting Package, and the USFR Compliance Questionnaire. So I've listed for you on this slide a few different page numbers of the financial statements, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. If you were to, find yourself wanting to dive into it, you might want to focus on these particular pages as a starting point. In particular, I'd like to point out page 22, which is the Independent Auditor's Report. So it's about 3 pages long this year, and those are the 3 pages that are my responsibility. Everything else is district responsibility. And the good news is that, as I noted on the slide, there was an unmodified opinion, which essentially is the best audit opinion that you can get. So that's the really good news there. And then I'll just point out the management's discussion and analysis that has some really good language that district provides. And it kind of goes year over year to explain changes in, why there may be fluctuations in figures from one year to the next. The financial statements and notes are the biggest portion of that. But then also the statistical section at the end, although it's unaudited, it's based on audited figures for most of the schedules, there's 10 years worth of historical data. So it's a really, really good place to go to kind of look at from a high level, where was the district 10 years ago compared to now, and be able to analyze some fluctuations there. As we move into the single audit reporting package, I would highlight page 11. It's the last page of that document. It's called the Schedule of Findings and Question Costs, and that is the page where we sort of recap the whole audit in one page. And essentially what that page says is that there were no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses that were noted in the internal control environment here within the district, and nor were there any findings or material weaknesses or non-compliance issues related to the major federal programs that were subject to audit during last fiscal year. And I've listed for you the 2 major federal programs that were audited last year are what are known as the Coronavirus Relief Funds, which the district would call ESG, or the Enrollment Stabilization Grant, and then also what's called the Education Stabilization Fund. They're very similar in name, so it's easy to get confused. You all know that as the ESSER grant. And so the combined total of those 2 federal programs was about $30 million out of a total of about $60 million worth of federal expenditures. So those are the highlights from that. And then in terms of the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire, that document is it's actually filled out online it's issued by the Office of the Auditor General. They put together the Uniform System of Financial Records, which is the manual that the district has to comply with, full of lots of rules and regulations that are largely based in state statute. And what the compliance questionnaire does is it extracts certain key elements that the Auditor General's office wants to have reviewed by every school district that's subject to audit. And then we fill out that compliance questionnaire online based on the test work that we've done. And it's really quite extensive, and it goes through a whole lot of different areas, and I've listed a few of them up there for you. The first one, of course, is governing board management procedures, and it asks questions such as, did the board meet? You know, were there any violations of open meeting laws? Things like that. And then, of course, we focus a lot on the accounting records, and then things that, you know, we look at. In addition, there's procurement is a big area, student attendance is a big area, and then there's a lot of other assorted areas, you know, like how you spend your Class B bond monies and things like that. So the way the questionnaire is designed is so that you, the auditor answers either yes or no or not applicable, and then if there's a no answer, that's what we would consider a non-compliance item. Again, it gets reported to the Auditor General's office, and they have ultimate responsibility for determining whether or not the district meets substantial compliance based on the results of the audit. And so with that, I just want to say thank you to Lana for sure, and all of district management and the staff that we work with, because it takes a whole lot of people to pull a lot of information together for the audit to happen and for everything to be issued on time. So I just like to say thank you for making our jobs a little bit easier. So, and with that, I'm happy to stand for questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions?
I guess I have one. What was the cost of the audit?
Joel, I knew you were going to, I'm sorry, Mr. Worth, I knew you would probably ask me a question, and I am unprepared to answer that for you.
Well, last year it was what you saw. We made the adjustment to $51,000, but I think it's around $60,000.
So that's incredibly low, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I was just going to make a comment on some of the things that we've received. The page numbers are not matching up with your presentation.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Likely that is the page number of the PDF version versus a paper version. So depends.
Okay.
Sometimes I tend to list the PDF page numbers, perhaps, thinking that you all might be looking at it electronically. But if you're looking at a paper version, I'd be happy to cross-reference those for you.
Okay.
We've got the stuff on our screen here, so it's the stuff on our screen.
Okay.
Okay.
And we were all given packets.
Okay, perfect.
Also, so, all right. Are there any other questions?
One other comment.
Yes, Mr. Worth.
As a CPA, they're required to do the audit work that they're doing. But when you have 150 pages of an audit, it becomes somewhat useless to the community. It's something that I think our profession has failed at miserably, but you have to do what you do.
Thank you.
So we have to have an audit done every year. Is there any, what is the rationale behind that?
Actually, I think probably Jennifer can answer that probably better than me, but I believe that if you receive over $300,000 worth of federal dollars, is that correct?
Well, state statute requires the Auditor General to establish the level. So current statute says that any district with an M&O budget greater than $750,000, I believe, to $2 million, you'd be eligible for a biennial audit. But once you reach $2 million, you have to have an annual audit, and that's based on your M&O budget. So if you have more than a $2 million budget, you have an annual audit. The single audit piece of it kicks in when federal expenditures exceed $750,000 in any given year. And so in terms of school districts, as Ms. Berry pointed out earlier, you know, based on budget, second largest district in the state, you know, clearly you will have an audit every year. There are a small number of districts that what they do is they either go through a procedural review from the Office of the Auditor General every so often, or some of the smaller districts may have an audit of 2 years, so they have an every other year audit, so biennial.
Okay.
I do have one question. So
Yes.
between the audit and the budget that we spoke about earlier, that's on the public board docs, anybody wanting to look into Chandler's finances basically has everything they need right there in the same place, don't they?
Yeah.
Yes, between the The audit that we do through Heinfeld and Meach, our CAFR, that's the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and then our annual financial report and our revised budgets, pretty much every document that you need. And that's why we give that out to our bondholders. Any of our stakeholders, community members can have access to any of that. So they have access to all of our records.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. I guess we'll go ahead and ask for a motion to approve the annual comprehensive financial report and single audit reporting package for the year ended June 30th, 2021. Could I get a motion, please?
I'd like to approve the annual financial report, the single audit, and the Uniform System Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire and questionnaire findings be approved.
Second.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Next, we have our school district annual expenditure budget revision number 2. Mrs. Berry.
Madam President, sorry about that. I exited out of one thing for the annual financial report, and it exited me out of the screen, so I apologize for that. So tonight, in accordance with Arizona Statute ARS 15-905 and 15-910, by May 15th, the board may revise the school district annual expenditure budget after notice has been given and a public meeting has been held. The revision reflects the adjustment for ADM, operating capital budget line item changes to account for actual and encumbered expenses, reflection of the new revenue expenditures in direct relation to federal grants, and the addition of budget expenditures for renovations and capital expenditures. Attaches the district's annual budget expenditure, budget revision number 2, and an explanation of the predominant reasons for the adjustments. Recommend adoption of the 21-22 district annual expenditure budget revision number 2.
Thank you. Could I get a motion, please?
Madam President, I make a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 district annual expenditure budget revision number 2.
Second.
Are there any questions for Mrs. Berry? I know we had a public hearing on this earlier tonight, and I think we probably had most of our questions answered, but did anybody think of something else? No? Okay, then we'll just go ahead and vote. All those in favor of adopting the 21-22 district annual expenditure budget revision number 2, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, now we have issues for consideration for the 2023 political agenda. Now, this is for our ASBA's political agenda. We have a listing of 5 different top priorities and 2 additional items for consideration. We are limited to top 5 priorities and then 2 additional ones. Hopefully everyone has looked over this. So could I get perhaps a motion and then we can discuss?
I move the priorities noted in the handout. Do I need to read them?
No.
So I move that we approve them.
Second.
Okay. Are there any comments or discussion on, let's start with Ms. Love.
So I think, again, because it was brought up during community comments, that we just need to clarify the difference between this, which is the political agenda for ASBA, and what we do here, which it sounds like there was kind of like a call to adopt a resolution, which is a little different. But I've sat on the political committee with ASBA, and I can assure you that ASBA does have a number of equity goals written into their political agenda. It's published online, and it is under improved outcomes for all students. So this is what was approved last year during the political agenda, and they will have more that they will probably discuss as a result of all of the districts getting together to submit their top priorities. So I just want to make that clear that We, of course, do focus on equity here in the district because it is a part of our strategic plan. But our political agenda goals that we have tonight are separate from that. And I think that's a separate conversation. And ASBA is doing a lot to focus on equity and fighting some of the bad bills at the legislature.
Thank you, Ms. Love. I think I'm going to piggyback on that too, that we did have a discussion last time that the political agenda that we see that is published by ASBA is so broad and so has so many elements to it that it is kind of a pipe dream to believe that in any one session that they could truly address and have significant impact on all of those items. But I believe that this is definitely a worthwhile exercise because ASBA has individuals down at the legislature and they are reading the bills, and when they cross-reference those bills with what the political agenda is, they come up with a determination according to the political agenda, whether they oppose or are neutral or they support a bill that's going through the legislature. And I think that although we have discussed that they haven't been that ASBA hasn't been extremely effective in getting a lot of things passed or prohibited, they do end up communicating to their members quite well as to really what the status is as to whether the general membership of ASBA is supporting or opposing or is neutral on a specific bill. And it does kind of help you relate that to the bill and its impact on public schools. So I think that I will go ahead and, since I don't think all of you have a copy of these priorities, I'm going to just briefly read our top priorities. Is a permanent fix to the aggregate expenditure limit. There was a lot of that issue going on earlier in the year. Fund district additional assistance inflation. Increase special ed funding to meet expenditures associated with special needs costs, fund building renewal and building replacement costs for districts, fully fund all-day kindergarten. Currently, all schools in Arizona are funded for part-time kindergarten, and the majority of Arizona schools are providing full-day kindergarten. And those are the 5 top priorities. We also have support a poverty rate for schools in the K-12 system, and then approve favorable election language. So are there any other comments or questions from the board? Any more discussions? Okay, so we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the 5 top priorities along with the 2 new priorities as presented and discussed, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. We will now move on to our information items. We have our student activity, auxiliary operations, and tax credit reports. Mrs. Berry.
Madam President, members of the board, the student activities, auxiliary operations, and tax credit reports for the months ending July of 2021 through April of 2022 are provided for your review.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry. Are there any questions or comments? As I was reading through the audit stuff, I noticed I did not realize that this is actually a requirement that these have to be sent to the board monthly. I mean, we get it, but I didn't realize that that's a statutory requirement, so thank you. I know there's a lot of work that your department puts in to end up preparing these reports and making sure that everything has been coded correctly in all the reports and all the accounts, so
Makes you
thank
feel better. I didn't know that either.
Whoa, okay. Next, we'll move on to our third quarter technology report. Mr. Dunn, or
Madam President, members of the board, the third quarter technology report is presented for your information.
I had Mr. Dunn's name on it. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher.
I was ready.
All right. Are there any questions on the technology report? All right. Next, we will look at the board agenda roadmap. And we have no more meetings in May, but we do have a lot of graduations that are occurring on May 26th. And what we'll all be out at the schools handing out diplomas, and I'm very excited for all of our students who are graduating and moving on to their life and all. Our next meeting will be June 8th. And we'll be looking at our Journey 2025 final metrics for this year. Mr. Narducci, do you have some comments for this evening?
Thank you. I know it's a long meeting, but we have a few end comments just to do some celebrations here. I do want to thank the board I know it's been a long day. You've been here since 5, so I appreciate the work that you all do. This week is dedicated to our CUSD school nurses and health assistants. Please join us in giving a huge public shout out to say thank you for our nurses and health assistants who have worked tirelessly over the last years during the pandemic. Their jobs, unsung heroes, they've just been handling lots of cases, lots of communications, sometimes being the first conversations that are had, some conversations pleasant, some not so much, and they've bore the brunt of it. And so we appreciate you and your dedication to students and families and for always doing what's right and the dedication to your profession. So if you see a district nurse anywhere, any district, or health assistant, please thank them, and we are very thankful for them. Also, congratulations to Janet Hartkoff. She is the Cybersecurity Program Director at Basha High School. She was lauded with a Teach Cyber Passport Award. This award recognizes teachers who dedicated significant time and effort to prepare for recruit and implement a cybersecurity class in their school. Janet was hired to initiate the program in 2019, and it has continued to grow under her leadership. On April 28th, the ICON Cybersecurity Program held its first ever cybersecurity signing on April 28th using a similar approach our athletic programs take as they announce their scholarship winners. Janet has done such great work. We're replicating some of that in our C-Tech program, where our cybersecurity programs will be duplicated on the west side of the district. Since we last met, the Arizona Education Foundation recognized Hartford Sylvia Encinas as an A+ School of Recognition for 2022. As they celebrated their A+, the Arizona Educational Foundation honored them. We were at an assembly. It was wonderful. The students sang songs under the direction of Chris Nguyen and made speeches sharing their pride of the school. It was an excellent way to go into the weekend, and this makes 95 times, I'm going to say again, 95 times that CUSD schools have been named A+ or Blue Ribbon since 1983, the most in Arizona. Basha High Accelerated Middle School Academic Pentathlon team won first place in the state. This is the second year in a row that Basha Accelerated Middle School students have achieved the title of state champions. They will compete in nationals on May 20th. The Basha High AMS Pentathlon team is under the direction of Joanne Withrich, who is in the audience here. Joanne, can you say hi? Joanne, how many years have you been in the district helping us out?
So I actually did the math after we met last,
Mm-hmm.
and since it was 1996, that was
26 years, and you're still going strong, 2 state titles. Fantastic. We were going to recognize the team tonight, and that's why Joanne's here, but it conflicted with the National Junior Honor Society induction ceremonies at the school. A Castile 8th grader and Auxiliary 6th grader also medaled. Since they could not be here tonight and we have no school board meeting scheduled before school lets out, I'd like to read their accomplishments into the public record. Our top three finishers are in sixth grade honors division, London Smith from Castile, representing Auxerre. And then we also have in second place Daniel Gu from Basha AMS. In eighth grade honors section, we have placing second Arnav Modem from Basha Accelerated Middle School. And in third place, we have Karen Valamshetla from Basha AMS School. In sixth grade Scholastic, placing third place, we have Srivatra Akela from Basha AMS. From seventh grade Scholastic, we have in first place Pranjul Singh from Basha AMS. And in second place, Soham Joshi from Basha AMS. Third place, we have Siddharth Danapudi from Basha AMS. And in eighth grade Scholastic placements, we have in second place Abniyav Singrinidhi from Basha AMS. In third place, Brenna Bearden from Basha AMS. Varsity eighth grade, we have Dorian Hewitt from Basha AMS, Kayla Ong from Basha AMS, and Oliver Smith placed third from Castile. Others who will be competing at nationals from Basha AMS are Karon Val Shitla, Grace Gaffney, Abnivad Singre Nidhi, and Dorian Hewitt, and Andrew Ritchie. We understand that the sponsors, Joanne Wuthridge, plans to show this portion of the meeting to her AMS students. I am so embarrassed if I messed your name up. I owe you a big apology, but that was a list of names. I respect you, I applaud you, I appreciate you, but I'm just not hooked on phonics right now, so I apologize. But all of our students, we thank you. 2 years running, state champions, and you all deserve the respect and accolades. So thank you very much for all your assistance. Hi, Brianna Beard. I got your name right. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here tonight. 2-time state champions. That's amazing. Yeah, and a national championship too. Man. You know, when you repeat, we're going to have all the kids in here, and we're going to celebrate them big time. Okay. All right. This year will culminate with our high school graduations and senior celebrations, which are beginning next week. I can read them all off to you, but nobody's really listening and nobody's writing it down. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to encourage you to go to our website and see when your senior celebration is. We have senior celebrations out of a lot of our programs, such as Hill Learning Academy. We have also the ICANN students that graduate in our Chandler Early College. So those will be on the website. Then the high schools will host their graduations at their home stadiums beginning May 25th at Perry High, and then ACP Basha, Chandler, and Castile and Hamilton will be on May 26th, where I appreciate that we'll all be spread out all over celebrating our 3,000 graduating seniors who are going on to do great things and represent Chandler very well. So we're very excited about that. And then schools around the district celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week in style. Additionally, I just want to add this, that Lance Michael at Hamilton High sports medicine teacher received a $1,000 grant for his classroom from Whataburger. So I love Whataburgers, and $1,000 for Michael's even better. And I just, again, want to thank our nurses, Lindsay Hartley, our Director of Nursing, and all of our nurses and health assistants, and wish them a happy Appreciation Week. And then again, like I said, if you see one of our people, take extra pride in thanking them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Narducci. Do any of our board members have any comments? Maybe start with Lindsay.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Jessica Lee for reading that proclamation for AAPI Heritage Month and giving her presentation afterwards. And I think that it's amazing. We do have so much diversity within our district, and I'm glad that we celebrate it. However, I think that one of the things that we're hearing during these proclamations, whether it's Black History Month, AAPI Heritage Month, our Native American Heritage Month as well, is we have students who want to be seen and heard and feel safe within the district. And we have heard that some of our students are just not feeling that way, particularly our LGBTQ students, because they're feeling under attack, especially because of things that are happening at the legislature, particularly trans students. So I would like us, even though we are doing these proclamations to celebrate our diversity, I would like to see us come up with a plan or some kind of proclamation in terms of like how we're going to protect these students, since it has been asked for in the previous meeting, in the comments that were submitted online, and we've gotten a number of emails from specific groups that have suggested that we need to be doing more, whether that's speaking to the issue and solidifying that we are dedicated to our equity goals and we are dedicated to protecting our students. And I don't know what that looks like. I do know that Phoenix Union did pass something this week with regards to trans students. I would like to see us do that and affirm that in our district. And I don't know if that, means that we sit down with groups from, or students from different groups who are feeling unsafe to come up with something that is amenable to them, because I definitely want their voices heard. But I think that it's been asked for, and I don't think that we can continue to ignore it on the dais. Thank you.
Mr. Olive, anything? Mrs. Bruner?
I did have a little something that I wanted to share. So as you stated, there was Teacher Appreciation Week last week. And I just wanted to say thank you to all the teachers and the paraprofessionals and all the other educators in Chandler Unified. Every day you make a difference in student lives. And every time you share an encouraging word, you make a difference. Every time you actively listen to a student, you're making a difference. Every time you provide opportunities for students to think critically, you make a difference. You are the backbone of our community, and I could never express my gratitude enough. Thank you for all that you've done for my children and all that you've done for all our children. Thank you.
Mrs. Bruner, that was wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Worth?
That was wonderful. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to get a little negative on a different issue. But first, I believe an ACP Erie golfer won the state championship, I think. So you might want to see if that's true and somehow recognize it. During my career as a CFO, I was always responsible for the lobbying efforts in education. And one of the things that became very clear again this year is the lack of unwillingness of the Arizona Education Association to work with the various education lobbying groups. If we all combine our efforts, we can really make a major impact on the funding of education. I just look forward to the time where the Arizona Education Association will look at changing its attitude relating to working with the other groups. It's kind of disappointing. Thank you.
I also want to express my appreciation to all of our teachers in the district and our paraprofessionals and our support staff too. They do truly make a difference. I am not being as eloquent as Mrs. Bruner with her appreciation, but I also have to say that teachers truly made a difference in my children's lives. And I think that they are underpaid, overworked, but they do amazing things. And even with all those handicaps, and I truly appreciate them. I also want to say that as we're talking about Appreciation Week, and when Mr. Narducci was talking about our nurses and healthcare professionals, I think that another group of those are of people who we can maybe have omitted is some of those teachers who are teaching our students some of their nursing classes and healthcare classes, because they are I guess they're inspiring students to look at their medical professions. And I think that that's a really wonderful thing for these, for the students and for our community, because I think I think that we are looking at potentially a crisis in our healthcare workers in the not too distant future, because there have been a number of them leaving the profession, many of them leaving the profession. So kudos to all of those individuals who are inspiring our students to look at healthcare fields. So thank you very much, and we will see you again in June. Have a great week, and this meeting is adjourned.